just need two.
Would that be on the city website?
my cough drop.
You know what?
I know
think
I-
you're right. I think
I
these
got
over
it
here
from
up
being
there, and
on
they can be
the
down here.
Love your shirt.
No, we gotta have a little fun.
That would be hysterical.
Alright, Wi-Fi it is. Keep turning my watch off, so I keep forgetting.
You can stop by.
It's 6:30. Hey guys, what do you think? It's 6:30. We should start.
Yeah, keep it up.
No.
Okay. So that's a tip, and then that's tip. Shoot. And I'll try. Alright, so these two are each string.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Alright. Feel like a munchkin. I'm getting there.
Well, there's one that's bad.
I think I just had it.
Just go on, tell them I'm waiting.
Alright, oh, let me, Testing. Can you all hear me? No? Mine's not any. Let me try it again. There we go. How about now? There. Alright, fantastic. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and call the regular, city council meeting of September 25th, 2023 to order. Roll call, please.
Zasada.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
McAdams.
Here.
Verbic.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Mayor Barnes.
Here.
8 present.
So that was the first time in 2.5 years we started at 6:01, not 6 o'clock. So I apologize for that, everybody. All right, without further ado, I will ask Captain Hy-Vee to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Gentry. All right, moving on to agenda item C, approval of the agenda. I take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Perkins. Any questions or comments or modifications? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Zasada.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 aye.
All right, the agenda has been approved. Moving on to agenda item D1, presentations. Presentation of Veteran City of the Year Award to the City of DeKalb from Michael Embry of the 40 and 8 Veteran City Award Committee. Do we have Michael Embry here? Oh my gosh. If anyone knows Michael Embry, he is never late, he's always on time, and he's constantly advocating for veterans. All right, so we're going to ad lib here.
Maybe we want to postpone it?
What's that?
Do you want to postpone that one?
Well, we'll talk about it, and we can always postpone it. That's a great suggestion, so we'll do that too. But ultimately, so the 40 and 8 organization is a great organization, and it originated with a bunch of French nurses back in World War I. That if you know your history, and I know our city manager knows the history, that group saved countless American lives during World War I, ultimately because we as a country still hadn't built out in our military and infrastructure for our medical corps, essentially. So the 40 and 8 was you could fit 40 soldiers in a car, a train car, or 8 horses kind of thing. And that is, I know we laugh, but if you can imagine World War I being shipped off to fight for freedom, it was an incredibly historic moment, and it took everyone leaning in as hard as possible in order to ultimately be victorious over tyranny, but also to be able to keep that freedom flag flying. I'm looking, I saw pants. If I know Michael Embry, that's not him. All right, so The 40 and 8 recently recognized the city of DeKalb at a state level with their state organization as a veteran-friendly city. And they also recognized one of our officers, Chief, and Chief was down there helping be awarded that. But then also Michael Embry was awarded, I can't remember the term exactly, but it was just a veteran advocate for our community, for our state, and for our country. And then our submission, since we won Veteran Friendly City, also got submitted up to the Nationals, and we were actually awarded the most veteran friendly city in the United States of America by the 40 and 8, which is an incredibly prestigious honor. Michael Embry represented us. I was traveling in North Carolina and couldn't make it, so he stepped up to be able to receive that award and did an absolutely phenomenal job representing the city of DeKalb, but also representing veterans. So I agree, we'll table that, Alderwoman Zazata, but ultimately, it's just pretty cool. When you look at all of our banners, when you look at our parking spots, when you look at how much we lean in on recognizing our veterans, and I see Sid out there, that's another veteran of the United States military, and Alderwoman Zazata, myself. It's pretty cool that we have people in our community that are leading that charge. And just reminding everyone about it's important to take a moment to recognize those that have served something larger than themselves. And we do a phenomenal job in the city of DeKalb doing that. So we will definitely table that and give Michael Embry an opportunity to be able to share that honor with us in the future. All right, moving on to E, public participation. We have none. Moving on to agenda item F, appointments. Number 1, appointing Alderman Mike Verbeek as council liaison to the Airport Advisory Board. And then number 2, appointing Paul Callaghan to the Finance Advisory Committee for the completion of a 4-year term through December 31st, 2027. Can I have a motion to approve these two?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Alderwoman Zazata, seconded by Alderman McAdams. Any questions or comments? Let's just have a roll call, because it's pretty cool that people are stepping up to serve in those capacities.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
8 ayes.
All right, the appointments have been approved. Thanks, Alderman Verbeek, for stepping up. Appreciate that. Moving on to agenda item G, consent agenda. Number 1, minutes of the regular city council meeting of September 11th, 2023. Number 2, accounts payable and payroll through September 25th, 2023 in the amount of $2,706,200.93. And number 3, Freedom of Information Act FOIA report, August 2023. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Any questions or comments, council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
8 ayes.
All right, consent agenda has been approved. Agenda item H, public hearings, we have none. Moving on to agenda item I, considerations. Number 1, consideration of a Northern Illinois University Foundation request for an extension to exercise an option to redevelop city-owned real estate at the intersection of West Hillcrest Drive and Black Hawk Road. Can I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderwoman Zazata. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Back on July 10th, at the regular city council meeting of that evening, the council approved a resolution that authorized an option to enter into a redevelopment agreement with NIU by September 29th, 2023. So this item is partly a status report on where we are with that, and also there is an ask involved, which I will get to. In our audience tonight is Matt Streb, who's the Chief of Staff and Board Liaison for NIU, and also Catherine Squires, President and CEO of the NIU Foundation. Thank you for being here tonight, and if I falter, you will lift me up. There's a letter in your background from Catherine, and it was dated just about a week ago, and it satisfies the general statement of intent that was required by that resolution back in July, which is, proceed toward learning the things that need to be learned to then put us on track to see an acquisition of property at the corner of Black Hawk and West Hillcrest. I want to state very firmly that what we have unfolding here happily and definitely unfolding is something apart from the normal commercial transaction we have is an organization that, while it is going through its own due diligence about the size of the building, the size of the footprint, so we can identify by survey what the size of the property will be that they wish to acquire, there is fundraising going on. In a straight-up commercial transaction with a commercial broker, with a commercial development firm. Normally the money's there. Here we'd like to buy this, and then we're going to think about what we're going to put on this spot. This is different, obviously. I'm happy to say that the foundation has proceeded, circulated an RFP not long ago for qualified architectural and engineering firms to help them reach a consensus on the conceptual space that's going to be needed for what they hope to do in terms of the Greek Life Center. Also, the foundation's hired a consultant experienced with capital fundraising to help them in a parallel fashion with the significant philanthropic campaign that will be required to pay for this facility as time unfolds. And so what's before you tonight is a consideration, and what I'd like to recommend is that we support the foundation's request for an extension of this option, which otherwise would expire in just a matter of a few days, till March 31st, 2024. That will allow the foundation to pursue its fundraising campaign and also to develop that preference for a space and for a design which will please the council. If you're agreeable to this, and I hope you are, we'll have a revised resolution and agreement on the next City Council agenda.
And at this point, I figure before we open up for questions, I'd love Matt Strub. If you just come up and just talk about how excited you are about the Center for Greek Life and Northern's commitment to it, that would be absolutely phenomenal, which I know is there. And that's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to share how excited Northern is about this opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. No, I think this is, we were here July 10th, right, before you the last time. You saw that we had a lot of our Greek Life students with us in the middle of the summer. You know, when we go out and we talk about this on campus with our Greek students, remember all four councils too. There's a lot of focus on IFC and Panhal, which are the two councils that have houses traditionally, but our MGC and our MPHC chapters as well. The students are really excited about it. We just got back from trips to Boston and Nebraska for football. When we're out there, you know, at those games, Catherine and I spent a lot of time with donors and alums who we talk about this, and they're very, very excited about it. You know, I think, you know, as I said in July, the single biggest way that NIU can help revitalize the Annie Glidden neighborhood is to revitalize our Greek life, and we really believe that the Greek Life Center will go a long way to do that.
100%. Nah, I was at a community meets campus meets community event, I think is what you call it. I was out there during that event, and all the Greeks and so sororities and fraternities were out there, and listening to a lot of Greek councils, many that didn't have a house. There was a startup, if I remember right, that was just trying to recruit additional Greeks. The level of excitement in Greek life, being able to, one, participate in a campus meets community event, but also just listening to them and listening to the students and the level of excitement they were about the collaboration they're going to have and the Center for Greek Life. It was actually really cool to hear, because we can all hear from administration and what we think is important, but when you're actually boots on the ground and hearing it from students directly, I thought that was pretty incredible, and I was really excited and reinvigorated to hear that. So any questions for Matt or City Manager on this extension? All right, hearing none, I'll take roll call.
Really no action.
Oh, yeah, it's a consideration, you're right.
I'll bring
I'm
it back.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
So you're looking for heads nodding, so heads
Yeah,
nodding are
yeah.
no problem.
We'll bring back a resolution.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, awesome, appreciate you. All right, moving on, and thank you, Mr. Strub. And I think at that point, if university personnel would like to exit stage left, you're happy to. Thanks for coming out, super appreciate you. All right, moving on to considerations. Number 2, consideration of possible accommodations to support parking in the downtown area for those with mobility challenges. Hey, since I'm in the TIF district, can I participate in this, city attorney?
If it's not using TIF funds, you can participate, and then what the representation to me is that TIF funds will not be used, so,
So we're good?
Correct.
yeah.
All right, that's fantastic.
Correct.
All right, so consideration of possible accommodations to support parking in downtown area for those with mobility challenges. City manager or Zach Gill, who wants to start?
Let me just set it, and
Yeah,
Zach can fill
absolutely.
in. So, credit to Zach to bring some of this to my attention. He's been approached, and I have from time to time received calls from people who said, boy, we really love that downtown road diet that you did and so forth, but there are some places on Second Street and Third Street where I find it hard to find a place to park, or in this case, I have some challenges with my mobility. We have some handicap parking spaces, but we're going to be hard pressed to put any on the Lincoln Highway thoroughfare just because there's parallel parking, and the only way you can do that would be on the curbside. You obviously can't unload people in the driving lane. And if you do that, then you're going to cut into that wider sidewalk, which we prided ourselves in creating. So there are some ways to do this on Third Street. On the north side of Lincoln Highway, as you all know, there's quite a slope there. That slope is not the 112 slope that is required in state law. It's much greater than that. So that creates a problem. Even if you could get people out safely, it would not be possible to navigate to get up on a sidewalk. So there are a few places on the south side, and Zach is going to address that, and also some other places which are pictured on page 3 of your background tonight with the blue arrows or the blue labels. We usually don't, usually this is part of a capital campaign, but here it is, it's the end of the year. We may be able to get some of these things started, and I assure you that we can do this within my spending ability per project. And so, and also we wanted to send a message to people who've been calling us off and on. It's not been a groundswell, but who said, hey,
I've
can
had
you
a
do
few of
something
them
about
too,
that? And I
yeah.
thought the council would like to weigh in on that. Zach?
City engineer.
Yeah, the main thing is downtown's fun, so it attracts people, and it attracts
is
a
awesome.
wide range of people, and we want to accommodate all of them to enjoy that. And the biggest takeaway from this then is, we're not saying no because we don't want to. When we put up one of those signs, it's not just me going out there and saying, yeah, put that blue square up there, it looks good, guys, right? We have very stringent standards for what that needs to be. All manner of disabilities are accounted for with this, the slope of the pavement in all directions, the steepness of the ramps, the bumpers, the side rail for the visually impaired. A lot goes into this. So we can't just put them wherever we want, and that's why we haven't seen them there yet. So what you see the first stab here on 3rd Street, I think we have an opportunity to take an area and give ourselves a nice kind of stock, so to speak, of these ADA compliant stalls. They are right next to a very popular restaurant that we see heavy traffic at. And with the one that we have on 2nd currently, we've kind of bookended both sides of the heart there between 2nd and 3rd. So that was my idea for the best place to initiate this effort. So doesn't mean it needs to stop there, but it's a good place to start, I think.
Awesome. Council, questions for Zach or city manager? All right, fantastic. Appreciate you, Zach. Always being receptive to what the public wants, and I think that's a great spot. Obviously, we got a lot of delivery traffic and stuff there, but that's a perfect location, especially, you're right, close to a very popular restaurant, to be able to have those people that need a little bit more accessibility to be able to get and enjoy our downtown DeKalb. So thanks for your attention to this matter.
I might add that
Yes.
it's also next, approximate to a very popular flower shop downtown, a new flower shop downtown.
Yeah,
And
which is Wilred. We
if
can
you
just say their name.
If you can picture those 3 spaces, none of them are exactly the right size for a 8 or 9 by 19 or 18, whatever it is, parking space. So taking that up basically and putting a proper space in there, I think does everybody some good.
Yeah.
I believe this one, I think we could get 3, I think, in there as well.
There's 3 there now, so we'll get.
Yeah, we can play around with some, yeah, I think
Yeah,
we can.
that's great.
At least 2, maybe 3, so.
But to her point on a popular flower shop, Wilred, and a popular restaurant, El Jimador, And then you can talk about Fun in Store, and you can talk about a bunch of businesses downtown. It is amazing how so many of them have come together to figure out how can we have new events, exciting events. That's where First Fridays came from, Back Alley Market came from. This isn't the city driving this. This is entrepreneurs downtown DeKalb that are trying to figure out fun things for them to do and to attract more people to come downtown. And we've worked really hard, including you, city engineer Zach Gill, to allow and make it conducive for downtown to support those events. So I think it's great, and I think it's great that we're going to have more accessibility options for those to want to come down, like you said, to enjoy all the great things that are going on. So thank you. This is consideration, so I assume head nods. Let's move forward. Yes.
If we're done with this piece,
Yeah.
Mr. Embry is here.
I saw him. Yeah, I'm going to bring it up. All right, so let's just go back, and I'm assuming I'm probably violating some Robert's Rules of Order, so I would love a motion to bring up, where was it?
D.
Agenda item D, presentations, back to the floor. Can I have a motion to bring D, presentations, number 1, presentation of Veteran City of the Year Award to the City of DeKalb from Michael Embry of the 40 and 8 Veteran City Award Committee to the floor?
So moved.
All right, I heard a movement by Alderwoman Zazada and a second by Alderman Perkins. Mr. Embry, why don't you come up to the microphone and tell us all about what this means, how exciting it is, and what the experience was like going down and representing the city of DeKalb at a national level on such a prestigious honor.
Thank you. Sorry if I'm late. I was actually at the Northern Illinois Tourism Conference
Oh, yeah.
telling people how great we are having the Veteran City of the Year. So
That's great.
they were very
Appreciate
excited
it.
about it. And Rockford has no title compared to what we have. So I'm very excited about that. It was a great honor to be asked by the mayor to represent the city of DeKalb in Sandusky, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. All the efforts we have done over the last 4 years to create a veteran-friendly community with the banners and the bricks and the signage, it was amazing to see the response we got from the local people. And there were people from Illinois, and the organization was saying, you know, we've been working 10, 12 years and we have nothing yet, and you did this in 4 years. They were just like blown away. So it was a great honor to be there as a veteran. We're blessed for a small town of 40,000 people to have 4 major memorials, and we have 2 more coming. And October 20th, we are going to have a rededication of the Elks Veterans Memorial at the Elks. We're going to put 100 more bricks in, honoring our local veterans. We're also going to enhance our World War I memorial. And 2 weeks ago, we had a lady call me, and she and her husband are going to pay for the first Women's Veterans Memorial, which will be there. So what an exciting time for us to have this title and to be honored. I know as a veteran, and I know as another veteran over there, it's pretty exciting. So if you wouldn't mind stepping down here, Mayor, I'd like to present you with something.
Better yet, I'd like the whole council to come down, and
Well,
also
we could do that as well.
Mr. Humble over here, part of the reason why we've had such accolades at a state level and national level is Michael Embry, but more importantly, I don't think we can find a better advocate for veterans that have served, are serving, than we have with Michael Embry. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate your tireless efforts for driving memorials, driving advocation, for our veterans. It's wonderful to know that we have people like you in the community that keep championing that, and the support you get also is heartwarming, because it doesn't take much for you to raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to do X, and you get a bunch of people that step up to support it. So
It is a wonderful
you.
title. It's not my title, by the way. This is all of our titles. This
Absolutely.
is the Veteran City of the Year. And we have about 18 months to make this work and let people know around the country. We've already sent it out to tourism bureaus and to NBC, ABC, all the major media. It's pretty impressive for a little town like this, to
I
what
agree.
we have.
All right. So if council, whoever wants to, would come down and we'll take a picture with Michael, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Nice job. You get in there. No.
So So I'd like to present, and this is from the 48th National Veterans Organization. It's the 2023 City of the Year, DeKalb, Illinois. It's chosen by the Society for all the outstanding work we have done for our veteran families and veteran populations, so.
All right, 3. 3, 2.
You know, a lot of things come before council. Some are contentious, some are easy, some are, well, it's just a wide variety of things come before council, and it's just, it's really cool, Mr. Embry, that you were part of this, helped us champion this, and then it's not the recognition of trying to get City of the Year award. It's just pretty neat that we do a lot of things to recognize our veterans. And we recognize the veterans of those that served, that are City of DeKalb residents. And I love taking a moment to just pause and do stuff like that. So appreciate Michael Embry. And also, you don't have to stay. We got a lot of stuff to cover. You're more than welcome to exit stage left if you want to. But just a fantastic honor. All right, going back to, where were we? J, resolutions, number 1. Resolution 2023-087, approving a 1-year lease extension of Sunvest Solar LLC through December 31st, 2024. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderwoman Zazata. City Manager, and I know we have representation from Sunvest as well, but
We
you want to
do.
kick us off?
Is this working? You can hear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Back in December 2021, the council approved a resolution that, or excuse me, an ordinance actually, that wed us to the fortunes of Sunvest LLC. And the intent was, from the council standpoint, to develop about 48 acres, which is just to the north and slightly west of the main community hangar at the DeKalb Taylor Airport. And our hope was that that 48 acres would be converted to a solar farm, and that solar farm would generate in its first year an annual, upon full construction, of an initial annual rent of $86,400. The airport was then and is now looking for new revenue sources, and all was agreed that that would take about 3 years to get through several steps, the last being the actual construction. The development period, development in this case doesn't mean construction, it means due diligence, both at the state level and in other respects, to make sure that it was the right place and the right time. That period is to expire at the end of this year. There is another agency at the state level that has an authority over this, and that's the Illinois Power Agency. And it happens that we're aware now that this is something it doesn't, it happens fairly more often than we'd like. It also happened earlier when down at First and Gerler, where the DeKalb project was not included in the state's 2023 procurement plan. And so we're going to have to wait a little while. Hopefully, we will get that go-ahead from the state level in 2024. So Mr. French, who is the principal representing the Sunvest here tonight, has asked for is an extension to the end of December 2024. Makes a lot of sense. It's something we feel is going to happen, but all the ducks are not in a row to make that happen. So Mr. French is here tonight. Be happy to address any questions you may have.
And I think, Mr. French, you wanted to make a comment, if I remember right?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I just have a little update for you on the project. So the state in June went through their 2023 procurement for projects. This project was not selected but they've gone through and they published their wait list for next year, and the great news is this project's actually number 1 on the wait list. So
Nice.
we will be moving forward with this project. We spent a considerable amount of money on due diligence and other investigations, so we're excited to move forward, should you consider extending that lease for 1 more year, at least on the due diligence part. And then while I'm up here, I just wanted to also invite you to a ribbon cutting. So the project we have on Gerler and South First Street, we'll be having a ribbon cutting on October 10th at 11 a.m. Representatives from Sunfest. We'd like anyone here from the city council and from the city staff who would like to attend to also be there. We'll also have representatives from Commonwealth Edison. The ribbon cutting ceremony itself will be fairly short, about half an hour, but we are going to open up the solar facility for tours afterwards, so you can all see the magic that happens inside the fence. So I would love to have you there. I know we've been working with city staff to get that announcement out, and then we will be making a press release to that effect also. So,
Fantastic. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, I would take roll call.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Resolution 2023-087 passes. I look forward to seeing
Thank
you at
you
the
very much.
ribbon cutting. All right, so moving on, we got resolution J2, J3, and then also ordinances second reading K1. I've said this over and over again, but I'm just going to repeat it. Because I actually own a commercial property in the TIF district, I have to recuse myself according to state statute. And you all know I love being here and being present and making sure everyone understands where I stand on things. But according to state statute, I'm not allowed to. So I have to leave the room. I cannot be part of the discussion or the vote. So I will hand the gavel over to Senior Alderman Mike Verbic, and he will run J2, J3, K1. And I look forward to being back for L1 ordinances first reading. Alderman Verbic, thank you.
J2, Resolution 2023-088, authorizing a development agreement with Richard Sinclair Properties, LLC, for the redevelopment of 151 North 4th Street, PIN 0823160031. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
City Manager, we're going to take a couple of comments here eventually, but...
Do you want to have the comments
perhaps-
first?
No,
Okay.
not for this item.
All right. Fairly lengthy background here, giving you a lot of facts and figures and some history. Mr. Patterson, who's here tonight, Sam Patterson, sitting in the front row, will have an opportunity to address any questions you may have as this conversation goes on. He is the principal owner of the building at 151 North 4th Street. He's been interested in this building for some time and has been the owner for about, what would you say, year and a half? Two and a half years, okay. And initially, upon his acquisition, his hope was to do some remodeling. There are 2 floors there that are occupiable. There's a lower level, which some of you may know if you've been around here for a while, that used to be able to park cars in. The only one of its kind, I think, in DeKalb. But the standards for that kind of garage parking have changed. Air exchanges are important, particularly as fumes would otherwise tend to accumulate, and so it's not being used for that purpose anymore. But the first 2 floors are being used. The commercial uses on the first floor are consistent with our zoning for that area, and on the second floor in the downtown area, you can have residential, in this case apartments, and some of those are rented. But his intention, and we've had some lengthy talks about this and also looked at some of his other work as an owner or manager, including the Grove across the street, the restaurant build-out that is in there that he is partly responsible for. He has every intention of doing the right thing in terms of city codes and so forth. He has some revenue coming in, but he'd like to do enough of the work to make a difference so he can fully rent both floors. And there's some work in the lower level and some exterior work that he can do as funds become available. He has private equity support from a local bank, some family sources, but there was a gap. And that is, gap funding is, I suppose, a synonym for TIF rehab funding for private rehab, and always has been. We've successfully done helped support a number of private redevelopment and rehab projects, and I mentioned a few in your background. Happy to answer any questions about that. Two of the more recent ones are by Mr. Gerke and also by Mr. Pappas. But the council came up with some new protocols after several years, well, more like a decade of kind of loose standards when it comes to what it is that will make sure that the other taxing bodies that are contributing their money to our TIF district on an annual basis will be satisfied as being used to build the incremental property tax over time. And a key player in this is the township assessor, who will look at projects and also identify what pieces of the rehab work will actually drive higher EAV and what are just mostly repair, cosmetic type things. We've had, Mr. Patterson and I have had some lengthy conversations about this, and he has been with the supervisor, or the township assessor, who has identified what he thinks is sort of the outside of what the value would be over time. That's in your background. It comes to about $92,000 in gained increment. It's a very conservative number. There's not an attempt here to increase the value based on a multiplier, which we know is usually appended to the calculation of the EAV. So I feel that it's a fair number that would be generated over 20 years, not 1 year, not 2 years, but over 20 years. And the fabric for this would be what we normally do. There's a mortgage and a promissory note, and after 20 years, if there's some, after the calculation on an annual basis and the record keeping that we do, we show that that 92,000 plus was not generated in new incremental tax proceeds, then the balance is owing, and it has to be paid within 30 days, I believe. So Mr. Patterson is aware of the terms. He has agreed for me to bring this to you. I think it's a sound project for why we have the TIF 3, and I support it. I hope you will as well.
City Council, questions, comments? Alderman McAdams.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. I've been in that building many times this summer through DeKalb Mutual Aid, which is one of your clients, and that building definitely needs to work, and we're very happy that you're willing to do that. I think that building will increase in value exponentially, actually.
My comments refer to parking. Getting ahead of ourselves, perhaps, or perhaps I'm getting ahead, but has there been just a look-see with the number of apartments and number of businesses? Will parking on site be sufficient, or we're more looking at it as sprawl parking, or do we know yet?
So there's no parking requirement in the downtown business district, and there's no parking requirement for this particular property. That's just because the built space is over a generation, or multiple generations, over 100 years. When people weren't thinking about cars, they were thinking about trolleys and trains and horses. And that building is I think the 1920s maybe, or somewhere around the First World War. Yeah, or maybe even before that. So somewhere in that groove. So it certainly fits with so many other older buildings in the downtown business district that don't have space for off-street parking. That was partly why there was basement or lower level parking, which is a project that, at least in dealing with some structural issues and other issues, that Mr. Patterson is going to do outside of what we're talking about, the loan. But so the answer to your question is there is an off-street parking that's provided here. The proximate parking would, if it's not on the street, it's the parking lot that serves the the park district's property across the street, which overnight and so forth would be open, but maybe not during the day, although there isn't much parking there. There's not much use of that park right now.
Thank you. Anything further? Alderman Zasada?
I think this project adds value. I'm excited to see it come together, and any investment in improving a space and making it more livable. I think this is the whole purpose of TIF. So,
Alderman Perkins?
So how many units will be on the second floor?
5.
5 units, and
That's
then
what I bought it as, and we'll basically keep the floor plan.
5 on the second floor, and then on the first floor, how many commercial units?
8, maybe,
Okay,
bought it as 10, but I call it 8, to be honest.
okay.
Anything further from council? Hearing none. Ruth, please call the roll.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
7-I.
Motion passes. Thank you for your investment in DeKalb. We really look forward to that coming together and paying you a visit and seeing all the activity that will be happening on that corner that it's been long since that's happened. So thank you.
Thank you for the support.
J3, Resolution 2023-089, authorizing approval of a real estate contract between the City of DeKalb and DNJ Properties Incorporated for real estate commonly known as 128 through 140 South 2nd Street. May we have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
First motion by McAdams, second by Larson. We have a few public comments here for J3. First is Nancy Doherty. Welcome, Nancy.
Since we're dealing with the real estate contract and you already said all that, I'll just go on. I've read the contract. One area I was a little concerned about was item 19E, and a little bit of C. 19E states, "The seller authorizes and permits the buyer and buyer's authorized agents to directly negotiate the relocation of the Tangles tenant and termination of release of the Tangles lease, which was dated May 6, 2022. I could not view the lease online, so I was not able to determine what those terms were of that lease. There was no button to click. Also, I could not find where it stated that the buyer will accept the responsibility to renegotiate the lease or relocation of this tenant, nor that the buyer has spoken to the tenant to present to the tenant any terms the buyer would offer. If you look on number C, 19C, it states, "The seller shall deliver to the title company in forms showing the termination and release of the Tangles lease." Okay, so I sincerely hope that Tangles receives sufficient assistance from the city in order to move to a location that is acceptable to her. Also, the tenant will not incur additional expenses being required to move to this location, including setting up her new hair salon, as well as loss of revenue during the move or having to be closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next up is Dan Sears.
Since we last spoke, we are and have been negotiating. I think the major sticking point is compensation to the tenants of the building, which I am, and so is Joe, and so is Tangles. We have willfully and in good faith offered to waive any compensation to ourselves as tenants, thereby freeing up some space for the city to negotiate with Tangles. Should this go to eminent domain, there would be no such waiver of any of that compensation to those tenants. As far as the city's conclusion of the second appraisal, there are several problems with it, and therefore its conclusion of value. It violates FIREA on several measures. Its comps on land value are colluded and contemptible at best. They used 3 comps on land value, 3 out of 84 closings in the Central Business District since 2019. The first one, as best I could tell from research, the city had about $500,000 to $600,000 into that property, and it was sold by the city for $119,000. The second comp, also by my estimate, maybe $400,000 in value, the city sold for $100,000. So city was the seller, same buyer in both of those transactions. The third comp was a small vacant lot that, again, as far as I could tell from the assessor's site, had one of the lowest sales values in 30 to 40 years. Remember, when we talked about the appraisal we had done, it was suggested that that had bias. Yet ours was done by an independent appraiser, by an independent bank that had no relationship with that appraisal firm. And our appraisal came in at $630,000. If you want to draw your own conclusion on that second appraisal, read page 106, line 1. Read page 11, subject sales status. The appraiser clearly stated that the contract had been terminated, and when I asked her who or where she got that information in my email, she said she had been instructed not to speak with us, and that we would have to get that information from the city. Read page 63, she speaks about demolition not being applicable in this case. And on page 63 and 64, her conclusion is, highest and best use of subject property as improved is concluded to be hold as interim retail and storage until such use of market conditions warrant. After the last speaker's comments, she basically reiterated everything I was going to say in Jenny's favor. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sears.
Mr. Burbick, I think I put myself only on K1.
Yes.
J3. I probably should have added J3 to the top.
Okay, next up, though, is Jennifer Bodie. Jennifer?
Good evening, you guys. I didn't come prepared to speak, but I felt compelled to approach you guys and discuss a little bit of my future and my fear of my future. I was approached by Mr. Nichols last week about the contract that is written for Mr. Sears. And it didn't state, it stated that, well, he told me, first of all, that they agreed to $50,000 more than the appraisal value. And he told me that that reason why he did that was because that was for them to take care of myself. Now, mind you, I certainly am not here thinking that I'm going to get a big payout. You know, this was never, and I never thought I was going to be in this position. But it's not stated anywhere about compensation for myself. So I've been reeling for a whole week of, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I don't trust the fact, if it's not in writing, that anything is going to happen. I can't trust, nothing against you, Dan, but that he's going to, help me out. All I know is I got to look out for myself, and I don't know where to turn. So I'm turning to you guys. Please put something in writing. Reassure me that I will at least have something to start something else. I don't need a lot. I just want somewhere to go and something to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Alderman Walker?
Hey, first of all, I want to speak to, I've known Jennifer almost 20 plus years, delivered to her. I feel for you because you were thrown in the middle of some BS, and like you, I don't trust many people either, and unless it's in writing, you probably won't get taken care of. So I do understand you, and I can speak of your character. You've been one of my favorite customers, and the years that I've known you, you've always steered me right, and I feel for you, and I hope we can get something in writing for you if people really want to help. Transparency is all I'm asking for you, so sorry you got to go through this.
So next is Mark Doherty. So J3 and K1, Mr. Doherty?
Mark Doherty on behalf of D&J Properties as the owner of the subject property. I really just wanted to acknowledge that I think we've made a lot of positive progress. We've had numerous communications between myself and Mr. Rose, and then with him, Mr. Nicholas. The latest was a draft, a redlined latest by me in response to Mr. Rose's redlined, and I think there were just a few issues that need to be resolved. I acknowledge that he may not have had the opportunity prior to this meeting to engage with Mr. Nicholas to get into that a little bit further, but hopefully they will soon. You've heard, I think, what the most significant sticking point would be compensation. I do acknowledge that the city believes that its price in the contract is encompassing of compensation for that tenancy. As you've heard from Mr. Sears, we may not believe that to be accurate. We see that the price in the contract is compensation for the real estate and in exchange for the existing tenancies other than Tangles waiving any compensation. So that does continue to be an issue that we'll need to resolve. Although the contract currently as written would allow that discussion to continue and allow the city to engage with Jenny and Tangles on Second toward that end. And if that cannot be resolved, then the contract would not close and the city could make its determination to go to eminent domain, and my client could consider other tenancies and continue on with his ownership of the property. And one, I hope, a little bit less of a minor of a situation is that we are seeking reciprocal indemnification of any claims from any realtors that may be involved. We do acknowledge that Carrie Autumn with Weichert Realtors has worked with D&J, but we do believe that she would waive any compensation as it relates to this sale. There is a communication from last December wherein the city manager sought to enlist the services of a different realtor as relating to proffering an offer for this property. So, and we've sensed her that that realtor may be thinking that he's entitled to some compensation. So we've asked that the city would indemnify my client as it relates to any claim that he may make. That, I think, of the issues that were last exchanged might be the couple that were the most outstanding. So I guess I can speak to this further as to K1, which would be authorizing the acquisition. I know this has been a while.
Mr. Doherty will take that at K1.
Okay,
Thank you. Alderman Larson.
And I don't know if I can ask these questions of Mr. Doherty. When did you sign a lease with Tangles? Can you tell us that approximately?
Please step up to the lectern,
Yeah.
Mr. Doherty.
I'll defer to Mr. Sears. I know that we've exchanged that lease with the city. I don't recall the exact date.
Okay, I must.
May 6th of '22.
Okay, and it ends?
It's a 5-year lease.
5-year lease, okay, okay. And is there anything in that lease about, if you had told the property that when Tangle signed it, like?
If you bought the property from me today,
Mhm.
you would assume the responsibility of continuing her lease.
Okay, so that's the lease she signed, is that when you sold it, you would make sure the lease would continue on?
Well, that's a standard provision in a
Okay.
real estate contract.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
City Manager.
Okay, there is some background here, and I trust you've had a chance to read through it. As Mr. Doherty referenced, it was a day after the last meeting that we received a contract, and then we responded within a day with the redlining that you see in your background on page 6. And then today, sometime around 3 o'clock, I received an email from the city attorney indicating that he had received a response to our response, which, as Mr. Doherty said, is getting closer to agreement on all the points. I haven't had a chance to study it, and I definitely haven't had a chance to talk to the city attorney about it. So what you have in your background is essentially what is on the table. The price is one of the issues here, because it was our understanding and it was our intent to provide for the relocation of of Jennifer with the additional 50,000 that we had put on the table back about a month ago. And the response of that is from the potential seller is that that's fine. We like that 50,000, but we're going to include that as the value of the part of the value of the property. That is what is at issue here. I don't think, and I'm not speaking for the sellers, but I don't think that they want to see Ms. Bodie in the cold any more than we do. So I don't think that's the case, but on the other hand, I appreciate her comment that she would like to see something in writing. So in our offer, we suggested that should be the responsibility of the sellers. And 50,000 over the fair market value seemed to be more than enough to cover that and other things that might be of interest to the sellers. What's before you tonight is a resolution to approve the city's approach, which I understood was that there was a majority of the council behind that at the last regular meeting. Now, a couple of things. There still are obviously details, as Mr. Doherty said, that need to be worked out. The resolution is before you and the contracts before you show that, but for the price, which is a very important thing, the council has purview over that, but as to timing and what happens with a furnace or something like that, that is left in the resolution before you and in the contract that goes with it to the city attorney and the city manager to work out according to your direction.
Alderman Zasada.
Okay, sorry, there's a lot of content here. So just to be clear, city manager, we're offering $420,000.
That's correct.
And of that, we're presuming, in context of what you're saying, we're presuming that 50,000 of that is to cover her expenses of moving.
Well, her expenses will not be $50,000. As she said, she's not looking to hold up either party. But there will be some relocation expenses, and then she may want to have some assistance in setting up a shop. If it's within the TIF district, TIF 3, and she has, if she finds a new spot, and I've mentioned this to Ms. Doty. Where are you, still here? Oh, there you are. I mentioned this last week, that it's possible to do an AIP loan, which would have to be with the permission of the owner of the property, so there could be some sinks brought in for a salon, some extra electrical, things like that, which were done when she first moved into the building with the Sears property. Also, I'm not sure of this, but there also may have been some heating, HVAC issues. That may be what the furnace is about. So any or all of those things aren't $50,000. And far less, and there's still plenty there to use as the Sears prefer. But we didn't. We're not going to refight, I hope, have the battle of the appraisals again. We've been through that. We kind of agreed when we first met it was the last meeting in August. Just before that started, that we weren't going to go back down that road, and we started to tonight. I'm not going to participate in that.
The city attorney, Rose?
If I may, I just wanted to clarify that there will be resolution on the Tangles lease one way or the other prior to the acquisition. It is a condition that the sale will not go into effect if the city is taking the lease as part of the sale. So during this period of time, there'll be some negotiation, on behalf of the city, on behalf of the seller, to see that there is some resolution of that issue beforehand. And if it's not resolved, then the sale is not going to go forth, most likely.
Alderman Zasada?
Okay, so I apologize because this is so dense. I really want to I don't want to sound ridiculous here with what I'm saying, but so I just want to understand clearly what we're voting on here. In this specific item, this resolution, we are voting on specifically this contract that has not been agreed to by both parties, but rather is our contract that we've decided is what we're going to do?
It's a contract that, to my knowledge, meets the parameters that you've set to this point. Now, we haven't had exhaustive conversation here about the removal of the furnace, for instance. We haven't had exhaustive conversation about title and closing costs. These things are pro forma. They're usually handled by the city attorney at the time of a closing. Now, if there are differences of opinion about that, what is proposed here is that we are able, have the experience between the city attorney and I to handle those things in the course of a conversation. If you want us to bring this back in its entirety, we're happy to do that. But as you can see, this is a bit of a movable feast here. Every time we try to reach the middle, we're going backwards. So I'd like to see us get to some point where you define very clearly what you think should be in the contract. We will see that and only that is what is represented to the sellers.
I would love to hear feedback from other council members, and if there's nothing to say, I will say more.
Well, I believe my point is well known. I don't support the project, but also I would suggest to council to not support something that's not final. So that should come back to us in its final form with our feedback this evening so that the city manager has direction as he's asking for what that looks like. But I can't recommend approving something that's not finalized. Also, I'm trying to figure out the math. We were at 240-some thousand, and then the total project was going to be 750,000 for us purchasing that at a price of 240 or whatever, plus the cost of ComEd, plus. So now if we're talking about 420,000 or whatever it ends up being, how do we stay at 750,000? Wouldn't we say that then the cost would be 930,000?
No.
What is the math for this?
So we have to tread lightly here because you're referring to some conversations in closed session and in public session. So
Not
what
at
we've
all.
talked about in, may I?
No,
What we've
not
talked
when you
about
bring
in
something
public
up that's
session
inaccurate.
is 420 now. That's what is in this contract. That's clear. We don't have bids on the demolition, but the demolition that was done of two properties on South 4th Street recently tell us something about that. One was City Hall and one was the corner property, the old post office at 4th and Grove. So the estimate we've been working with, just a ballpark estimate, is 100, okay? And we've talked about that before. We've talked about ComEd, and we're not sure about that. And ComEd hasn't given us a firm price, but again, looking at some things that have been done and talking, and Andy Rye's not here tonight, but talking with Public Works, so we have 100 there. So now you're at 620. Relocation, 5 to 10. Paving, probably about 100, maybe more than that, maybe 150. We're still in the ballpark at somewhere around 750. And if we keep throwing money at this, it does go up. We were at 350 until a month ago, and now we're at 420, hoping to meet in the middle, which is exactly where we were. And now the seller wants more. The seller and tenant want more. And I'm just saying that it does get to a point where you wonder, are we spending too much? I agree with that, but right now we're still at that budget number that we started with, around 750. And that's the best I can do at this point without bids. And if we wait to go to bids and we don't have the ability to buy the property, we're wasting more city money.
But my question was, how do we stay at 750 when we're going from 240 to 420. There's 180,000
Well,
there.
the 750 was based on conversations that we've had in this room. When we got the 370, I was asked in this session here what we might have, and I came up with 750.
Alderman McAdams.
So I want to change the tone a little bit. And I know some of this was discussed in closed session, so I don't know how much you can talk about. But I wanted to discuss the relocation of the tenants at Hunter Properties, and the costs of that. Because I know we discussed that at great length, and that was all handled correctly. And I don't want to misquote the number, but it was $30,000 for all of them, right? Or 32, somewhere in there. So I wanted you to, whatever you can talk to that isn't classified,
Yeah,
obviously.
so, different situation, right?
Yeah.
The negotiation, which was within a court settlement, proceeded according to the terms of that settlement. We did a straight up, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, negotiation under this court settlement was on the price of the property. It wasn't for relocation. We took that upon ourselves to do, because we knew we weren't going to get anything else through that court settlement for relocation. And Hunter Properties, different property owner altogether, wasn't interested in helping, was just hoping people would go away. All in all, from the time that we closed on that, we spent about $130,000. This has been made of, it's been a matter of public discussion here in the past, over the last year and a half. That wasn't all for relocation, somewhere in the vicinity of 80 to 90,000. But when we became the landlord, we were determined we were going to be a first-class landlord, not the kind of landlord that was in there before. And as things happened, we had to replace, even though it was going to be just for a few months, we had to replace a couple of gas-fired furnaces. We had to repair the roof, which was pouring in on people over the Fresh Market side, would be the east side, and all those, and utilities, assumed all of that. And there were vacant units at that point, and we continued to absorb that. So that's the difference. And there's another $50,000 or so on top of that. Yeah. So we're dealing with a moving target for a price, and in the interest of settling this in some amicable fashion, as Mr. Sears described at the last meeting. A month ago, I threw, here's right in the middle, boom. Here's $50,000. I didn't have your approval yet. I brought it to you though, and you said, well, now I spoke. We're at 420. But that should cover a lot of things. There was no relocation, commercial relocation, that cost more than $20,000. And one of those was the large Fresh Market, which had this is at Hunter.
Yeah, at the freezers, right?
Yeah, the freezers and so forth. So, and for the owner to relocate the business. So, a different set of circumstances.
But the money is the issue. We were able to knock it out for less than $50,000.
Yeah, and if you decide that you don't want to do the deal, then what comes after this is the ordinance then to move toward eminent domain, which has been approved on first reading.
Right.
Anything further from City Council?
I don't feel that I have the appetite for this project anymore. I think, so the Hunter property that we took was a very, very different situation.
Yes, I agree.
Very different. I don't care how much this costs. The numbers aren't so much what matters to me here. I think there's a deeper item at issue, which is property ownership, property rights. I understand eminent domain has its purpose and its place. You know, I think if we were, I think if they weren't so attached to this property, I wouldn't care as much. They're very attached to it, clearly. You know, for whatever reason, even if they like it as their storage place, that's not for us to say. I feel like we should wait, and someday when they're ready to sell it, we tear it down. But I don't feel that this is the right thing to do in this context, in the context of the size of the added value to the community versus the negative impact to, say, these whole 3 people, right? And I don't care how few people it is, I think that if this was anybody's property, we'd be quite irritated. And I think that part of our American values are pretty deeply rooted in property ownership and property rights.
May I just say one thing, and
City
then I'll
manager.
stop talking. So the other thing that's really rooted is that we hope that people who own property will keep it in good shape. Serious private money has not gone into this. That's why we're talking about TIF as a possible source, because but for that, where would the investment be to rehabilitate this building? And so if we want to tolerate a building that some of the aldermen have said is I'll be kind, is below par, below the kind of condition that we expect in our downtown, which is blossoming and becoming more lively, then we should hold them accountable to the standards that we have approved and which we enforce every day. And it gets us back to that question that we had here a couple meetings ago. So if we do choose not to purchase this as council's right, you're the corporate authority, then I assume that you want to be vigorous in the enforcement of the codes. We have not done that, and we certainly haven't done it in the last 8 months as we've been in conversation about this, and wouldn't do it. But now, if that looks like the alternative, if we're going to wait and see, someday they'll sell it, and then we'll buy it for more and tear it down. It doesn't seem like a good deal for the taxpayers. And in the meantime, it's certainly not a good deal for the downtown, which we're trying to rejuvenate.
Alderman Walker.
You kind of answered my questions. I was, just referring to, we've heard how bad the building is. We heard this and we heard that, and everybody's been in it, but no one's really been in it. And I don't know if the fire chief, or I'm not sure who does this, but have there been any real bad violations on paper with this building? Because if it's that bad, then you would think that we would have enough paperwork on them.
So access hasn't been offered.
Gotcha.
So we've had an appraiser through, which is looking at other things, obviously making a general appraisal of the condition of the property. As you could see, it was poor to fair at best. So, and that's by somebody who does this for a living, looks at it. But we'd be happy to send our fire protection officer, or fire prevention officer, excuse me, through with their permission and create a checklist of things that need to be improved.
Alderman Larson.
Somebody touched on this already, and these are the kind of votes that are hard because we have 3 or 4 individuals here that are going to be impacted extremely personally by our votes. But we can't look at votes, we can't look at this on just 3 or 4 people. We have to look at it for the 40,000 plus for the whole town, and that's what makes this job very stressful sometimes, and a lot of decisions. And I know people, the library we're sitting in, we had a local citizen who wanted to back this and very quietly bought 2 of the properties at value. And the minute the other 2 people heard that, oh, the library's gonna want that property, double the price. And that's the problem that we, as the council and the staff, have to vet. I mean, yes, we want to pay people what their property is worth, and that's why we try to get these appraisals with Hunter Hillcrest. We had to get 3 appraisals, I believe, between there and ours, and a third. And so I come down to, it's like, we want to try to purchase the property for a fair and equal price because we have 40,000 people that we're responsible to. And we're looking at how we can make DeKalb better in the future. And so that's what I'm going off of. I can't just look at the small picture. I have to look at the whole city. And so I believe that it's a fair price that we've been asking for. I think we're trying the best we can to even use some private money that's become available to make this the best compromise, which at the end of the day, I feel a compromise is nobody's happy. If somebody walks away from a deal going, I did it, that's not a compromise. Everybody should walk away going, should have done better. So if we all walk away just a little unhappy, we're paying a little too much, you're getting a little too little, that's where I'm aiming for. And so I'm still all in on this deal for the city of DeKalb.
And again, I'm certainly interested in investing in code enforcement. I've said that before. Not selectively because we can't work a deal here. I'm talking about code enforcement evenly throughout the community, investing in it to make sure situations like Hunter Properties and such don't end up on the backs of our taxpayers. So if we are proactive about code enforcement, I really do believe we can raise the bar in DeKalb. Anything further from council? Discussion on this. We have a motion and a second. Ruth, please call the roll.
Verbic,
No.
Walker,
No.
Zasada,
No.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
4-0.
Motion passes. Item K1, ordinance's second reading. So with this,
I think you have to read the title.
yeah, ordinance 2023-026, authorizing the acquisition through condemnation of fee simple title to the property located at 128 through 140 South 2nd Street, pin 0823163013. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Alderman Larson, seconded by Alderman McAdams. We have Mr. Doherty, Mark Doherty for K1.
Thank you, and thank you for your consideration on the last agenda item too. Just a few things, and I'll move quickly. This time goes fast. Professionally and respectfully, I disagree with Mr. Nicholas that we're moving backward. This is not a situation where the city is doing everything wonderfully and with flowers and pizza. This is natural that there are negotiations and there's back and forth between parties in real estate contractions. That's what we're doing. Nothing in the redlining that I've done with Mr. Rose has been antagonistic or I think in bad faith. On both sides. As for meeting in the middle, a phrase that's been used a few times, we had an appraisal at $630,000. The city had one at $370,000. If you add that together and divide by 2, that's $500,000. That's not where we're at. We then offered $499,000. If you added that to the appraisal of $370 divided by 2, we're at $434,500. We're not there. We're lower than that. And we were willing to waive the existing tenancies with D&J and the Sears Brothers as part of that compensation. I'm glad that someone pointed out the idea that the selective enforcement, for some reason this building is being, maybe because it's on the agenda, but there are other buildings in your city, in your downtown district, that need a nice, keen eye. And why the focus is on this one only is interesting to me. So yes, the idea of selective enforcement is a concern. I appreciate that you've approved in your last vote the real estate contract. Again, those terms aren't final. I remain hopeful that we can reach something that would be agreeable to both parties in that regard. As for inspections and whatnot, Mr. Nicholas has been in the building.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. City Manager.
Thank you. Yes, I was in the building in 2019 in March. And at that point, I was just invited in by one of the owners to look around at his man cave on the second floor. I said, I'm not going to be in here. I'm not representing the city's authority for building repair and so forth. So that was straight up, and that was true, and I was true to my word. But anyway, so, and one other thing that was said in error. So the last offer, the counter offer that we got before we came up with this 420 and the back and forth and so forth, it's about 6 weeks ago, was 475. So yes, 420 is within a couple thousand of the middle. All right, so here we are. This is up for second reading, and it pertains to this property that we've been talking about here tonight and for a long time. And why should we worry about this? We have a contract here, or we're working toward a contract with your resolution. We have an unusual time frame here. A lot can happen between now and July. And a lot can actually happen to the tenant. We hope that the tenant will be seen to by the owners who said when we first started this public discussion that they are donor-centric. Even more important than making money from their rent was the welfare of their tenant. That's on the record. So I think they have a keen and a high responsibility for the relocation of their own tenant here. But we'd like to make sure that hopefully that is done, and that the wording that we have in the contract that will come to pass, and hopefully it will, and I think we can get there pursuant to this last council action, will recognize that is their responsibility. So recommend that you approve this on second reading tonight. It has been in your sites and in the council's, in the public sites for a long time, and I'm not aware of any new relevant information, but I'm happy to hear any that might affect the outcome of this vote.
Mr. Berwick, could I have 7 seconds of my allotted 3 minutes that I didn't use?
You have a little more than that, but please.
I just wanted to mention one of my notes that I forgot to get to there was tonight and at the last council meeting, marks 2 times now that we've heard reference to private funds that relate to this project, yet none of that has been disclosed as part of public meeting or in our conversations as we negotiate this. It seems to be relevant. The public would hear about that.
I'm happy to speak to that because there's been a fair amount, if you may.
City Manager.
Acting Mayor. There has been private interest in the rejuvenation and rehabilitation of this block, as you know, and we have entertained some interest for a number of months, and we have discussed it in closed session. I'm not at liberty to discuss that now. Nothing has been consummated, obviously, in the form of a contract. That would be before you.
Thank you. Anything further from City Council? Hearing none. Ruth, please call the roll.
Walker,
Nope.
Zasada,
No.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
No.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, moving on to L1, we can bring Mayor Barnes back in.
Thank you, sir.
You betcha.
Saw Alderman Smith excuse himself for a minute, but I think we can continue. All right, so we are on agenda item L1, Ordinance 2023-040, approving the rezoning of the 8-acre property located on the east side of North Annie Glidden Road, south of Twombly Road, north of Ridge Drive, from the LC Light Commercial District to the PD-C Planned Development Commercial District to DeKalb County Community Gardens. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Perkins. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't anticipate any controversy on this. believe
I
it.
don't either. Yeah, this should be a slam dunk.
The DeKalb County Community Gardens is an organization that is familiar to this council and to the general public. Dan Kenny is here tonight, and I'm sure he would answer any questions that you may have. The organization has requested a rezoning for a little over 8 acres of property located on the east side of North Annie Glidden Road, just south of Twombly, which is on the west side, and north of Ridge Drive from the LC Light Commercial District. It's already annexed in the city to the PDC Planned Development Commercial District. The PDC, as we know from many other actions before this council, provides maximum flexibility to the developer or to the organization that's looking to develop. This came before the Plan Commission. The details of what is planned are laid out not only in my summary, but also in a deeper background that was done by Dan Olson, our Director of Planning. The Planning and Zoning Commission had a public hearing on this back last week ago tonight. It was unanimous in supporting this rezoning. Obviously, there's much ahead, and we hope that the council will unanimously support this. The building department will be very much involved, city engineer and so forth, but we see that as being a labor of love and not something that is going to create problems that will find our way back here. So by a vote of 6-0, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends this for your approval, and we recommend that particular request.
Council, comments, questions? Alderman McAdams.
So it was kind of a rough go there for a while, but I think we've come up with the best solution that we could have possibly wished for. I couldn't be happier that the property was located and that everything's going to work out. I think it's going to be an amazing addition to the neighborhood, and I look forward to voting for it.
Alderwoman Larson.
At the one meeting, Dan, I told you, I said, great idea, wrong location. Great idea, great location. Can't wait to get behind this 100%.
Alderman Perkins.
Yay.
Any others? So for me, absolutely. You know, this was probably one of the most discussed things that became before council in my 2.5 years as mayor. And I agree with Alderwoman Larson. Great idea, wrong location, and that's what it's been since day one. I've told Dan Kenny personally, I mean, my admiration for what you've been able to create, and if there was anyone who could ever pull anything like this off, it's you. And I know you built a phenomenal team around you as well, so it's not just Dan Kenny, it's everyone, and I've had multiple discussions with Heather as well. It's fantastic. Love the project, love the idea, always been in support of it. The concept itself, it was always just the location. So since we've heard it from a couple and I haven't heard from anyone else, I don't want to speak on behalf of council, but my God, you need our support in any way, shape, or form. You need my support in any way, shape, or form. You need me to write something. You need me to have a meeting with someone. Whatever it's going to take for you to pull this project off, I will lean in 100% to help you make it happen. I have a feeling, though, knowing you and knowing your team, you're not going to need that, but never hesitate at all to reach out, because this is a great project. It'll be a great addition to our community, and I think it's a perfect spot, being next to the new Methodist Church, being next to the New Hope Missionary Church. There is just a lot of opportunity for others to be able to lean in and make you even more successful than you thought possible. So really excited about the project, a lot of support on this end. Anyone else? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Zasada?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
McAdams?
Yes.
Verbeck?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Mayor Barnes?
Yes.
8 aye.
Ordinance 2023-040 passes on first reading. I would take a motion to waive second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Walker. Any comments or questions on waiving second reading? I'm assuming no, so I will just ask for roll call, please.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbeck,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 aye.
Bam. Ordinance 2023-040, second reading has been waived, so it is approved. Congratulations. Can't wait for the groundbreaking ceremony. Can't wait to see the success that you all create. So absolutely nice job. Looking forward to seeing it. Thank you very much. And you betcha. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks again. All right, moving on to ordinances. First reading, ordinance 2023-041, approving a plat of dedication for the First Street right-of-way dedication by Carlson Oak LLC. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderman Smith. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob Carlson is in the audience tonight. Has been waiting patiently to this point. The reconstruction of North First Street, as I say in the background, has involved some of the immediate property for both the construction of the new bike path and also storage materials and so forth. And Bob and Pat Carlson have been very generous in donating that ground in the form of a construction easement for the things that are necessary to keep that project going. It is not a buildable parcel that we're talking about here, and it's of no value to them. They're looking to dedicate this land to the city. We ask that you accept the dedication.
I never want to say something has no value to someone. I mean, you've owned this property for a long time, and I know it's been an extension of all the parcels that you own in that area. So for me, and I'm sorry to speak ahead of council, but it's really cool to see someone that has been dedicated to our community for so long, a family that's been dedicated to our community for so long, a great landlord in our community who had the opportunity to dedicate some of their land in order to create a new bridge, a new bike path, a new addition to our community. Bob, thank you so much for being so cooperative in this and offering up your land for us to make DeKalb even that much better. So thank you. City Council. Yes, Alderwoman Zasada.
This is super exciting. When I was reading it, I was like, wait, what? I was very confused. But I so appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for this. I love taking that path, the path that's over there all the time when it's open, and this is going to be an amazing addition.
Any others? Hearing none? Hearing none? Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbeck,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 aye.
Ordinance 2023-041 passed on first reading. I would take a motion to waive second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Zasada, seconded by Alderman Perkins. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbeck,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 aye.
Second reading has been waived for ordinance 2023-041. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. And a round of applause for the man. And we're close to the end, Bob. You're more than welcome to leave, but I have a feeling you're just going to stay. So thank you. All right, moving on to number 3, ordinance 2023-042, amending Chapter 55, Hotels and Motels of the City of DeKalb Municipal Code. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Wow.
I'm not really into it today.
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderwoman Zasada. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a feeling, and you may not admit to this, but our city attorney has been very diligently going through our municipal code since he and his firm were hired by us some years ago, trying to clean up some inconsistencies, trying to make things a little clearer. He's on chapter 55. I think some of the things he had to pass over because they're just too much like spaghetti. But here we are, and there are a couple of very minor revisions that he has recommended here, and we may as well do a little cleanup while we're gathered. And this is to the hotel motel tax ordinance. It doesn't change any of the basic licensing requirements. Doesn't apply to facilities with less than 5 rentable rooms, which has been sort of the threshold we don't want to cross in order to encourage family-owned bed and breakfasts and the like, and that was established by the council back in the late 2010s. The revisions are these. Clean up the definition of hotel owner, and if Pramit Patel was in the audience tonight, he would certainly not want to be called a person who's operating an amusement. That should be cleaned up. And also there are some minor penalties and interest for the late filing of tax returns with the city that go with any other kind of licensed business but don't apparently go with our hotels and motels. Ought to give us a little bit of leverage when we need to collect on those due revenues. So that's it, and it's to you to support this, hopefully.
Council, questions or comments? Hearing none. Roll call.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
8 aye.
Ordinance 2023-042 passed on first reading. I would take a motion to waive second.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. Questions or comments on waiving second reading? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
8 aye.
Second reading has been waived for ordinance 2023-042. All right, moving on to agenda item M, reports and communications. Who'd like to kick us off? Alderman McAdams.
Sure. Welcome to DeKalb DP Doe. The soft opening is this week. We've been looking forward to it, and we're just happy to have them in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alderman Walker.
No report.
Alderman Verbic.
Just wanted to thank everybody that reached out with feedback and observations regarding the normal road closure. NIU staff, residents, and students. I'll share those observations with city manager and city engineer here shortly. That's all for me.
It was cool during that NIU Meets Community Day. They had food trucks up, and I guess they're doing food trucks every Wednesday. Yeah, it was really cool to see how they're maximizing that opportunity. Alderman Perkins.
Went down to the Taste of DeKalb event yesterday, which was awesome. You know, it's a great area that we have for hosting those things, and look forward to seeing more things down there.
Yeah, yeah. Alderwoman Larson.
No report.
Alderwoman Zazada.
No report.
Alderman Smith.
No report.
For me, I went into Chicago for the IML board meeting. IML is the Illinois Municipal League. They're the largest lobbying organization for the 1,294 municipalities that we have in the state of Illinois. It was great. I mean, Brad Cole, our executive director, and the team that they have are, Goodwill Hunting, wicked smart. When you're around them, it's absolutely incredible, their level of understanding of what issues we have as municipalities and how they advocate at the state level is just phenomenal. So I'm honored to be on the board of directors there, but being in those meetings and seeing the level of advocation is just phenomenal. So we are well represented there. And what I love about them is they represent all municipalities, whether they're members or not. Doesn't matter. It's all about how can we make sure that all municipalities have as much freedom as they possibly can to be able to run their communities in the best way that they see fit in order to represent the constituents that they have, which is America, baby. Then DeKalb Corn Classic, following on Taste of DeKalb. Right before Taste of DeKalb is the DeKalb Corn Classic. Full disclosure, I'm president of the DeKalb Corn Classic. We had a record number of runners, almost hit 700 this year, and over half of them are from the western suburbs, and that was our whole goal with that race, is how can we drag as many people as possible from the western suburbs to actually come out and see our community on a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous Sunday. I think at race day it was like 65, 10-mile-an-hour wind, partly cloudy, perfect running weather. And they run our brick streets, they run our parks, they run NIU's campus, and they run the Husky Stadium. And on the course, there's the NIU Steel Band, there's the Black Tie Trio with Kurt Lumbeck. The School of Visual and Performing Arts has different musicians out, as well as when you run across the stadium, you have the entire Husky marching band and cheerleaders out there cheering them on as they run down, and they're seen on the Jumbotron. What we hear over and over again is the best 5K, 10K in Northern Illinois, which the whole goal of this race is just to get people to come out and see the beauty of DeKalb. And then we transition into food and music, and it's just literally a Sunday in September that is one big festival and one big party. So
It was awesome.
It was. I mean, it was just so cool to see packed Van Buren Plaza and the music playing and the beer flowing, and everyone was having a great time. Also, I was on the radio show with WLBK with TD Ryan, which is always a pleasure. I get the privilege of doing that every single month, and I have so much fun with him. And I always got to call out. I never know what he's going to ask me, and he'll ask me just about anything, which is great on the radio. Also, Bill and I met with NIU's leadership team. We pretty much have a monthly meeting overall, just meeting with them, discussing what's going on in campus, what's going on in the city, and how we can collaborate together to address any issues that might require that kind of collaboration. And I always have to call out, NIU has been a great partner since I've been in this role, really trying to figure out how we can move both organizations forward as best possible. So I always enjoy that time. And then also, if no one knows a man named Bruce Griffith, he runs what's called the Business Leadership Academy. So he gets seniors from about 5 different high schools all together and introduces them to CEOs and insurance agents and bankers to get them to understand a holistic understanding of how business works as well as how a community works. For some reason, he keeps asking me to come back, so I spent 2 hours talking. If you can imagine me, 2 hours talking. I know, right? Snooze fest. But for 2 hours, I got to talk to a bunch of high school students, which we all know, it's just like NIU students. When you're around students, our youth is just fantastic. They're not cynical like some of us. I'm not going to say all of us, but some of us gray hairs up here. All what they see is what's possible. And I love being around the students at Northern Illinois University as well as DeKalb High School. I'm constantly invigorated every time I'm around them. So it was just a fantastic couple weeks overall. City Manager.
No report?
All right. All right, so that concludes agenda item M. Now we're going to move on to, I don't have executive session. I don't have my notes. I need a motion to move to executive session.
So
Okay.
moved. Second?
Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. City Manager? Or not City Manager, sorry. Roll call, please.
Do you have to,
I have to read it. So we're going to move to executive session for number 1, approval to hold an executive session in order to discuss A, executive session minutes as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2 C21, and B, personnel as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2 C1. Can I have a motion to move to executive session? So we'll do it again. Moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Roll call, please.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
8 aye.
All right, we are now moved into executive session. Like I always say to all of you, you don't have to go home, but you don't have to. You can't stay here. So enjoy your night, everybody. God, I always have my nose in front of me.